From the pirate coves of Eodrael to the hidden trade city of Vosgod, Albyon Absey travels the realm, noting and documenting the domains found along the way. For the very low price of absolutely nothing, you too can access these beautiful scriptures. This week on Schedule for Launch, join me, Zach Walsh, as I talk with Albyon and Jack about the wonderful setting resource, Albyon Absey's Geographical Almanac. Built with rolling tables, commerce, and important NPCs, this virtual almanac is an amazing tool to up your table's world. We talk about building towns, teamwork, and old books. Welcome to Schedule for Launch, a podcast to discover the projects that you may have missed. This week, I am incredibly excited to be joined by two wonderful creators for a very cool little supplement and idea starter for your campaigns, whether they're D&D or other tabletop role-playing games. Jack, Albyon, thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thank you so much for having us.
So we're going to be talking about Albyon Absey's Geographical Almanac and how cool this thing is and what you both do and add to this. And I just got to say, we were talking a little bit before this actually started. I love the aesthetic of the Almanac, and I got some questions about that in a moment too. But before we really get into it, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourselves?
Sure, yeah. So I go by the name of Albyon Absey. I am a fabulist and scribe of Albyon Absey's Geographical Almanac. I live in the south coast of England with my family, and I'm a full-time writer.
And I am Jack. I am a scribe for the Albyon Absey Geographical Almanac. I currently work in communications, but I do a lot of work with psychology and things like that, and really try and bring that into what we make as a team.
I think that really sticks out when you're actually looking at some of the settings, because I've looked at similar things, various resources for designing and pulling ideas, and the categories that you have looked at, like economy, imports, exports, like all that stuff is in these locations. So I'm really impressed. But what is Albyon Absey's Geographical Almanac?
So it's essentially a free monthly resource of strange and fantastical locations there to inspire game masters and players alike. In each location, you'll find flavor text. There's those details, as you mentioned, regarding things like trade, culture, political and social hierarchies. There's NPCs, adventure hooks, roll tables, and more. So there's everything from giant dragonfly trading posts to fey-cursed haunted dolls' houses, astral pirate coves, and blackwater swamp homes to forgotten gods. There's a little bit of something for every fantasy gaming table, really, in our Geographical Almanac. Hopefully it's broken down in a manner that is really easy to dip in and out of. You can take a location and drag it and drop it directly into your game if you're someone who is just struggling for time, or you're sort of in a last minute pinch, or you're just struggling for a little bit of inspiration. What I find is also a really useful aspect of the Almanac for someone is to often you will start reading and your own ideas will bubble up to the surface. So you might sort of be sitting there thinking, I have a session in 2 hours or tomorrow, and I'm really I've run dry. I don't know what to do for my players next. And the moment you start to read one of our locations, you start to latch onto certain aspects, and you can just sort of pick and choose. I've mentioned to Jack previously about the idea of someone presenting you with a kind of finished Lego set. And as beautiful and wonderful as that is, and as incredible as that is, it's actually a lot more fun sometimes to break that Lego set down and just build it back up and see what you build. So every location, although it comes to you from Albyon Absey, I would imagine, one of the best and most fun things about using our locations is by the time you have walked your players through these places, they're entirely your own. I don't think two groups will ever have walked through two Little Winds or Folly of Sorrows or Stern Waters that are quite the same. So there's lots and lots of room there for kind of really pulling your own inspirations out, and that's really what it's for, is to inspire you and to give you fully fleshed locations should you really need them for your game. But mostly, we want to inspire your kind of creative spark, and just give you fun, interesting, sometimes terrifying locations to use in your fantasy tabletop role-playing games.
I think that really sticks through. You mentioned the Dragonfly trading post. I love Odinata so much. I think it's so cool.
Odinata is a really fun one. Yeah, it's a lot of. There are some very serious locations, and it is also nice to balance that with some not so serious. I can be a very serious person, but as Jack will tell you, I can also be a not so serious person. And we're all a little bit like that, aren't we? We all kind of, sometimes we want to be scared, and sometimes we want to laugh, and just be silly and have fun. So yeah, that's really really fun to know that you enjoyed it.
It's definitely something that we've aimed for. Actually, I would say is that in our home game, I play with Albyon on a weekly basis, and we really try and bring in collaborative storytelling, and I think that's really what D&D is about. Tabletop in general is about, is pulling those stories together, and that's what we've been trying to put into the basis, and like almost that lifeblood of Albion Absey's Geographical Almanac is just that we will present this and we want to create something with you. Yes, we've got these structured places, locations, if you want to pick them up and put them down, but at the same time, use them like a modular thing. Take the concept of Ilithir, but don't necessarily take everything if you don't need it. Put in what you need to and make it fit your story and your characters to the way that's best for them.
Yeah, I think this is one of the aspects of Odinata, which was, really think about if you're going to use a giant dragonfly in your game, that this could be setting a precedent for creatures that exist in your game. Maybe your players have never seen anything like that before. So there's always lots of fun aspects to think about, I think, when you're diving into one of the locations.
Jack, you had mentioned that collaborative storytelling element there, and that's something that I wanted to bring up because these locations, while like they're super fleshed out, but they feel like they've been built by a team, not just like one individual person. Just they feel set up and designed for a group to utilize, and it feels like that root is there. So what's the design process like for creating a new location?
It's
I heard that
fun.
laugh, so
Yeah, it's a great experience, and we do a lot of work together with a really great team. We've got scribes, we've got a composer on team as well. We've got artists on team that we speak to regularly and really try and grant that aspect of collaborative storytelling. I'll let Albyon go a little bit more into detail of kind of the writing process, but I know being a part of it personally, I like to add my own personal flair to that. And I think with a lot of the locations, you can almost tell who's been writing on them. You can feel that draw from certain people. They're all written in the exact same way of tone and structure, but there are different elements that you can kind of feel from different people. I know my background is more in psychology, and it's more in that sort of horror, or even to an extent that morality system of it's not black and white, but it's in the grey. And I think a lot of the locations that I've worked on, you can really find that in, which I'm happy to go into a little bit later. But for the writing process, I think, Albyon, if you want to kind of go over that in a bit more detail.
Sure. Yeah, so it's very often we have a lot of different channels on our Discord that are for sort of creating locations. So we'll have kind of location workshops almost, where someone might throw in an idea, and then over a period of a few days, one of our other writers, Erica, and Jack and I will just throw ideas at each other and see what sticks, really. And in much the same way as it occurs at the gaming table, those ideas become so much more because we're passing them back and forth, and because we're sparking different creative energies in one another. Locations are also built over quite a considerable period of time. Sometimes they come together quite quickly. Others take several months to sort of come into shape. It's a little bit like sculpture, essentially. We kind of find the idea quite quickly. We know what the theme is. we know sort of roughly what we want to do with it, but it's those real fine sort of granular details that sometimes we like to take our time with, and we'll just pass ideas backwards and forwards. And it's that collaborative element comes into play from inception, really. From for each location, and it might be that one of us has the overall idea, but then someone really comes in with with some amazing NPCs that the others just wouldn't have thought of, or that things in the roll table sometimes might spark an idea, adventure hooks, things like that. So it's a case of really sort of looking at I personally don't tend to stand too far back from a location, and I don't build a location thinking, well, what are the overarching things? I find that those things just naturally come to the surface, and I think as long as you're really enjoying what you're doing, you're always going to have fun creating things like this, right? Because you're doing it to satisfy yourself, and that's how the Almanac came into existence. It was just looking around for a resource like this for our games and just finding that nothing quite fit for us, and then thinking, hey, if we're building these sorts of locations for our own play, for our own game, there'll be other people out there that will enjoy this content as well, and that will find it useful. That's not just enjoy it, but find it useful. We're all sort of very busy in our lives. There's a lot going on. Life can be a kind of at a million miles an hour sometimes. So to help people, that's really, really lovely. Really sort of a kind of special and marvelous thing to this whole sort of process as well. Yeah, very much a collaborative effort, certainly. And yeah.
That ease of use is so integral to this, because even before we were actually live and recording, we were talking about some of the challenges with some of Wizards' official material, and just trying to like sit down and get it punched out if you have like not a whole lot of hours in your week, because you might have family and other responsibilities, but you play pretty consistently. And I think that the layout for the Almanac actually really lets you just drop in to a new location really quickly, and just there's a level of style to this that's really unique, and I think it's amazing. It's a great tool. Like, it truly is a very good tool for any table.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you so much. It really does mean a lot when when people say that they find those elements in it and recognize those elements in it. We've worked very hard to make it so. I will say that Jack should take most of the credit for how the website looks. Undoubtedly, Jack's worked so hard on it. I sort of tend to just come in and sort of throw mud about the place is my contribution to the website. But from the very start, we all knew that we wanted to make it as accessible as possible. To begin with, locations were released on Reddit, and I found the community on D&D Behind the Screen, they're really supportive and really encouraging. But it's just a wall of text, which I love words, undoubtedly, but that's even for my wordiness, that's too much for me. It's very difficult to scroll through paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. And similarly on our Discord, where we release the monthly locations as well. Again, it's just a wall of text, which is difficult to access, really. If you just want the culture, you just want adventure ideas, you just want to know about the lodgings and shelter, you just want the trinket roll table, the website, it just I think really does that beautifully. Really lovely. And that accessibility is really, really important, particularly not just for people that are rushed for time, but I don't know what both of you are like and what your listeners are like GMing. I tend to get into a bit of a tizzy. Like, I forget where everything is. The notes that I had 10 minutes ago, I've no idea where they are. It's like something's eaten them. I don't know where my pen is. I can't find my dice. So to have it, to have kind of easily accessible elements to a location is really, really important. And some of that visual element as well. There are sort of images on there that are stock images at the moment, But as Jack mentioned, we have a team of artists that we are hoping very, very soon to be able to start employing properly and commissioning bespoke artwork from them all in order to flesh out the almanac with beautiful artwork. The artists that we have on the team are all incredible, and they're all very passionate about the almanac as well, passionate about their craft and about what they do. So that will be another sort of accessibility. Really, it's just people being able to look at images and obviously having things like alt text on the images and etc. etc. I think we can probably still be a little bit more accessible. There's always things that you can do to make things more accessible to more people.
Yeah.
And we're always, if someone ever reaches out to us and says, "Hey, look, I'm struggling with this. I have this disability, and it means I can't properly use your please." What all ears, we would love to to hear from anyone that has ideas and suggestions, as long as those ideas and suggestions aren't incredibly expensive for us to implement. Then we will try our very best to make the almanac as accessible to as many people as possible.
I think that's a really pertinent point, Albyon. Just from the how the website came about, really, we always knew we wanted somewhere or some way of presenting this information in a more accessible way, but we never really took that plunge to start with. We were starting on that Reddit and that Discord, and we actually had one of our members fed back and said that they're really struggling to use the content, to read through it and to get through it all, just because they couldn't keep attention throughout the whole way, and they really struggled with that aspect of the visual, the black text on the sort of the darker background of Discord, or even the light mode, the lighter background of Discord. So that's kind of what spurred us making a website, was making this accessible for people and making it in a way that everyone can enjoy it, the way that I see all tabletop should be.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Aesthetically, and maybe you can lean more into this, Jack, on the website, the layout kind of reminds me of the Aberdeen bestiary, and like that classic old, this feels like the images feel like an almanac that you would find at the library in like a classic setting. It almost feels like if this was a physical book, it would be like leather bound and worn. And part of me wonders what were some of the inspirations for the almanac aesthetically?
Can I just quickly say you've made my day by recognizing those elements. Sorry. I'm just sitting here chef's kissing yes, thank you. Sorry.
I love the Aberdeen bestiary, so.
I think it is a lot of that. I worked really closely with Albyon on what his visions were initially of what this almanac was, and where we could go with that, and what we could really do to bring those sort of references in, bring those old-timey journals, and almost as if someone has picked up a book and has jotted down as they've travelled round. And that is really the idea of the almanac, is that Albion Absey has gone around and he has documented the locations of his world and how we could use them and present them in a way that is visually appealing, be accessible, but also really tap into those mysterious places and really make you feel like you are being transported. And I think that is definitely something that I feel we've accomplished, and I'm so proud of this website and what we're doing as a group. And I'm so excited to continue it on, especially with the bespoke art coming as well, which will hopefully only amplify that more. But when it comes to inspirations, I think Albion's probably going to be the best person to talk to. Mood board wise, I got a very competent mood board, and just very competent in every aspect, really. So, Albion, if you want to take that away.
My sort of inspirations are, you sort of mentioned the Aberdeen Bestiary, books like that. I collect a lot of books like that. Unfortunately, nothing quite as old and beautiful and fragile as that. I was sitting here last night looking at some books, and I found one in particular. I can't remember the name of it, but I asked my partner, can I have a book for Christmas? And he said, yeah, just send me the link. It was a Sotheby's link, and I think the book's like £7,000, and I just
oh my goodness.
She's like, I'll look at it when I'll look at it when I have a moment. It's like, thanks, love. I know, she'll spit her tea out when she actually reads what I've sent her, and there's no chance I'll ever get it. But it's, we can always wish. But that sort of aspect. I've always loved books. I've always kind of collected books. I have, I'm just surrounded by the damn things. And I also love, there's a certain kind of quality to those old images and a certain quality to that text, which is a little bit sort of, a lot of those works were created at a time when we didn't really understand the world. We didn't know why things were the way that they were. We didn't know what would happen if. We didn't know what would happen when. There's a lot of sort of elements to life that were genuinely terrifying. And of course, there still are. A lot of people in our world still live in really difficult and frightening and terrifying circumstances, and we should always remember that. But I think just sort of keeping it, in that sort of older world where things, were terrifying for reasons that we had no idea. And there's something very beautiful and very timeless that comes through those texts. I use those sorts of texts all the time for inspiration, just as a writer and just as a creator and as a GM as well. And they're just beautiful things to look at. And we're so lucky now that we can go on to the internet and you can look up sort of medieval. You'll see on the Almanac the A to Z itself. Those illuminated letters. It was really important for me to have that kind of that quality of the ancient almost, that this was something like Jack said, that you would, you're going through a dusty old loft and you pull open a drawer, a little bit like in the Goonies, for those of your listeners that have ever seen the Goonies, right? They're in the and they find One-Eyed Willie's map, right? That's that, and that, if you rewatch the Goonies, that look of wonder on those kids' faces, right? I think that's what we're all looking for sometimes when we play these role-playing games. Is to capture that sense of awe and that sense of wonder, and if we can, help the player or the GM that wants to use the Almanac find that sense of wonder, through whether it's the images that we're choosing or it's the language that we're writing in, the way that we're presenting things, then so much the better. It's a big inspiration to me, so I hope that it inspires other people as well.
There are a lot of cool things you can pull from in the Almanac. Specifically, one thing that I think is really cool is the theming. As it stands right now, there are 11 locations and they all have a very unique theme / flair going on with them. What are some themes that you're looking to explore in the future, though?
Oh goodness, Jack, would you like to answer that, or shall I?
I'll go a little bit into one that I'm quite excited about. We've done a lot of locations of weird and magical places, and kind of taking it back to a more gritty, sort of rough around the edges place. We're looking more at necessity. My background within tabletops comes through. I've written a few papers in psychology, just to really grasp what tabletop can do for individuals that are struggling with certain aspects of their lives. So I've worked a lot with transgender individuals. I've worked a lot with people that struggle to develop empathy and people with social difficulties, and how we can use tabletop to really enhance and help teach these rules and give a safe space, some form of comfort through that. And there's a location that I've been working on quite recently, with the help of Albyon and Erica, really trying to look at that and that sort of sense of not just identity but also pressure, the idea of there's almost time's running out constantly, and I think that's definitely something that we're really looking to lean into, that sort of world of if we don't do this in time, then something bad's going to happen, but we're not sure what it is, but something bad's going to happen, and it's that almost ominous, always something on the horizon. And when you get to the horizon, on the horizon again, and it's that never-ending sort of cycle there, and really seeing how that's going to affect the people that live there, the NPCs that we are able to create who live in this world, and when the boat rocks, what happens. So I think that's probably the one I'm most excited for at the moment. Albyon, I don't know, what about you?
I think the I always have so many locations kind of on the boil, so to speak. I'm a little bit like a panic chef running, sort of around the kitchen with the locations. But I think Nesteropites is probably the one that is foremost in my mind, purely because we ran a poll over on Twitter and on our Discord community to have people choose which location we release next. And we've done that a couple of times now. Nesteropites won, I think, mostly because it's talking squirrels. So you can really see there, to balance Jack's very serious, wonderfully serious. We have talking squirrels, just up ahead of that. So yeah, talking kind of pirate squirrels that are piloting a flying log around an ancient forest, essentially. So yeah, that's the one I'm kind of the most excited for.
That does just go to show the sheer range of what is available on within the Almanac, doesn't it? I think that says it better than anything that we could say does.
And it is it's worth mentioning, I guess, as well. It's an Almanac A to Z, so eventually there will be the full panoply, I think is the right word. I don't know, I'll have to look that up later. Maybe I'm completely using that word in the wrong way. The full sort of breadth of the alphabet. So when we have done the A to Z, I don't know what we'll do then. We might just go back to A and start again. Or it might be something completely different, another A to Z of other things that aren't locations. There's so many. I feel like we have such a great team and such a, we're really sort of nailing down our sort of our vibe, if you like, and the way that we're doing things and the way that the Almanac looks. It would be a shame to sort of just stop at Z and kind of abandon ship. I also really want to, with the artists that we have, I'm hoping to kind of grow that. So whatever artists that we have on the team for the Almanac A to Z, hopefully we can help them to use this as a platform towards more work and to sort of establish in themselves. Of course, not to say that they're not established, but to give them something that they can say, hey, look, I was a part of this project and it was really successful and worked really wonderfully, and also to give them a really positive experience, because it does seem like, without going into any particular details or naming any particular names, but it does seem like there are quite regularly really bad experiences that are had by creators. Either they get hired by someone who doesn't pay them properly, or they mistreat them, or they just mess them around. And I really want to provide a place where the team feels really respected and really safe, and like their ideas matter and their work matters, and they're paid properly and paid in a timely manner, to be able to say, look, this is how you can do things. It is possible to do things in a really good way. And just to keep doing that really under the name of Albyon Absey would be my particular dream. I have no sort of flag to pitch in terms of making tabletop role-playing games my career. I have a career already, so I don't need to sort of swing my saber around really. I just want to be here creating really amazing content and help others to do so as well. And if we can do that would be wonderful. That's a kind of a big part of bringing people into the team, and hopefully seeing them go on to do really amazing things would be incredibly satisfying. And then if we finish the A to Z and we can move on to another sort of content creation, starting that process again and being able to say to people, hey, look, go and speak to the artist, go and speak to our composer, go and speak to our other writers and ask them, did they have a good time with the Almanac? Did they have a positive experience? That really means a lot, I think, and being able to sort of provide that positive platform for people to come and be creative and to kind of expand their confidence and their abilities and their scope within the tabletop role-playing game community would be amazing. And of course, that's not to say that we're anything in this space. We're not. We know we know that we're sort of small potatoes, so to speak. But even small potatoes make fantastic chips, right? Or fries, if you're. What a terrible metaphor that was. That was awful.
That was interesting. It was an interesting choice there.
It depends if there's fish nearby. It's a chip or a fry, so.
We're also, I think, another point of that is we're always looking to improve what we've done. At the moment, just because they have been published and just because we've released them doesn't mean they're in their final form. we're constantly updating, adding role tables, and enhancing the things that we've already done. If you like a certain location and you find, do you know what, in this almanac there is only one location that's really drawing you in, then come back and visit again, because in a week, maybe in a month, there might be something else there, a subclass, a role table, those sort of things, when we want to look specifically into different systems.
Yeah, it's always growing every month. That's the other thing, is that, we're, as you mentioned earlier on, there are 11 locations at the moment, and they are released every month. So we have a mailing list as well, which people can join for free, and that part of being on that mailing list, or really the primary reason for being on that mailing list, is you get early access to every location, so you get them a week earlier than their sort of public release. And if you join our Discord server as well, which is a very quiet Discord server, which is just how I like it. It's like a reading room. Imagine a sort of old, I like to think about, sometimes I'm not sure, is Albion a person or is Albion a village, Jack? That's a constant question in my mind. And I like to think of the village green, and there's a little village sort of library, and it's very quiet, and that's what our Discord is like. But it does afford you as well, if you're on our mailing list, you get a week's early access to the new location every month on the Discord server as well.
I did have a quick question about the mailing list, because it was something that I read and I was a little confused by.
Oh, okay.
What is taro maini cheese?
I've no idea. Who knows? Who can say? There are many strange and fantastical wonders awaiting all readers on the Almanac. There's lots of little secrets, little things that you will find littered throughout that might just make you scratch your head. And it's really up to you to answer those questions, I think, is and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Are we not going to mention the secret 27th location? Is that not what that is? The cheese? That the moon now made of this cheese.
It's just a giant cheese wheel rolling around the globe, crushing all the other locations in its wake.
It's a cry for help. That's what the Almanac is.
It is. I'm in there somewhere flailing desperately.
So you had mentioned going back to locations. Is there any location that's out right now that you would really like to revisit and add to, something that maybe it's a favorite location or something that you've used in your own games and you want to explore it deeper?
That's a really good question.
That is a great question. Jack, what do you think?
Oh, to be honest, I've gone back to a few and repurposed for backstories of characters. I've recently joined a campaign where I've taken the story of Drunstower, and I've really kind of repurposed that and made it into something slightly different. And through that, I've found so many more things that I love about the location and love about the swamp itself. And really just want to get back into it and re-add things more than anything.
Well, that's an interesting one, Jack, because that's essentially death, isn't it? Death is a big theme in Drunstower, which is the idea that, that how they treat their dead, and how they sort of balance that with their lives in this horrible swamp. That's a really interesting one. I wouldn't if I had to guess, I would not have guessed that one, Jack. I'm really fascinated by it.
Would you not?
I like what you said about using it for character backstories. That's really cool. That as a player you can use the Almanac as well and just kind of, hey, where's my character from? Could they be from this place? That's fascinating.
What about you, Albyon?
Wow.
Which child is your favorite?
See, that is what I was going to say. It's a really difficult question. Okay, let's try it. Let me try and answer. I'm going to do my real very best. I'm a little bit in love, excuse the pun, with the Folly of Sorrows still. That was a relatively recent one. Maybe that's because I'm just an old romantic at heart. But the idea of this... and also because it contains a creature called the Hymn of the Hill, which is something that during a holiday in the Welsh sort of valleys and hills, it's a creature that I invented to scare one of my children, basically, which is kind of, I'm very fond of it. And occasionally I still do. If it's a little bit late at night and my youngest child isn't ready for bed when they should be, I will reconfigure the Hymn of the Hill into something that I now am, sort of stalking around the corridor of my house. But that idea of this monster that's all covered in bracken and moss, that it comes rumbling with thunder, with yearnings of all they have lost. I love that aspect of a monster that is terrifying, and it will kill you and eat you. This creature tears the hearts out of sparrows and deer and people, but that it's doing this because it is yearning for something, and it is lost, and there's a deep kind of sadness there, so that it's not just this kind of two-dimensional. It's a monster. It's going to bite you. It's going to hurt you. You kill it, and that's the end of the story. That it is yearning for something, and that there's a deeper story to be told there with monsters. And I think that's something that can be really interesting, to learn those things in your game and to bring that element into play. Like, what's going on here? Why is this monster prowling at this location? What's the deeper story here? What deeper stories can we tell? And it's a little bit open-ended in the Folly of Sorrows. There's also a lot of music there, in a lot of the roll tables on the Folly of Sorrows. There's a lot of aspects of music in play. As a lover of music, I quite like that. And also, there is an Easter egg from our own home game, in the cult there, called the Fourth Order, which is nice as well. I like to hide a lot of Easter eggs in there. So I think at the moment, the Folly of Sorrows is one that I'd like to play in it. I think I'd love to have somebody else GM it for me, and for me to kind of explore it and go face to face with the Hymn of the Hill would be amazing. This bracken and moss kind of shambling creature of the forest in the night would be quite wonderful.
It's such a cool image too. I'm very partial to Vosgod.
Oh,
I
really?
love it. So deserts and tundra are like my two favorite locations.
That's
And
very cool.
the idea of a hidden trading outpost is very intriguing to me.
Yeah, hidden in a sandstorm. So if you were going to use that, would you? Because this is a question that someone asked me once, and I thought it was a really interesting question, which is, would you have that sandstorm constantly moving so that you could put that trading post anywhere, or would you have it just as a singular place in the desert, almost like an oasis, like an anti-oasis, if you like? How do you think you would use it?
I think I would use it as a roaming village,
That's
like
very
a roaming
cool.
traveling thing.
Yeah.
Just like I kind of imagine it on like the backs of giant machines that almost rumble through the desert in the storm.
That's incredible. And obviously, like, there's a lot of writing in that location. There's the Carter Scrolls. I almost had
Yeah.
I had a lot of kind of bardic energy in my mind when we were creating that one. Just the idea that the bards in your party could want to go there to look at these ancient scrolls and to sort of learn what's there within them. And I think there's a kind of lot of like almost sort of battle poetry kind of elements in there as well. Like lots of stuff for your bards in there. But yeah, I love. It's a beautiful. Something that I always love about that location is a couple of the NPCs, Rueval the Drunkard and Thrinian the Dreamer. These two kind of old timey merchants that are that kind of classic too old for this shit, right? Like they just want to go
Very
home.
much.
They just want to go home to their families. They just want to be somewhere else. That kind of yearning for elsewhere, which I think is often a kind of subconscious aspect of us playing these games, like that yearning to be somewhere, to explore somewhere. Yeah, that's a wonderful one. I love to hear people's favorites. It's always really really lovely.
So we've gone for a little bit now, but one of the things we never addressed is, how did you two A, meet, but B, start working on this together?
That's a good question. It was a game that we both played in. We made some characters and got to explore them together. And I think from the get-go, our minds kind of just melded when it came to the kind of creative thinking when it comes to collaborative storytelling. And it's still some of my fondest memories of playing tabletop is playing with Albyon. And kind of being able to develop a character that I thought I'd already developed quite well. I was like, yep, I'm so ready for this. And then meeting Albyon's character and really driving that forward and finding these things that were locked away behind things I didn't think I'd ever approach in a tabletop game. It really opened my mind. And I think part of that was the reason that I ended up doing more of my research into tabletops, was my interactions with Albion. So I think as soon as Albion decided that this is something that he wanted to pursue and started looking into more, I was behind him every step of the way.
Yeah, upon meeting Jack, my immediate thought was, this guy's amazing. I love how he plays. I want him in every game I ever play in, essentially. So I was I kind of dragged him into my game, not kicking and screaming. That's not fair. Maybe he's kicking and screaming now, but he wasn't.
Definitely, I am now. Yeah, I mean, you've seen some of these locations. You know what this mind is like. It's really scary.
So I think it's like, yeah. I mean, there's definitely an element of like, this person is, I sense that they have really great ideas, and that I think anything, like any good game or sort of D&D or Pathfinder or whatever, it's better with the people that you play with. And I knew that when I wanted to create the Almanac, that there's absolutely no way I could do it by myself. I knew that it would be better for the people being involved in it. So it will be better because we have a composer on the team. It will be so much better because we have artists on the team, and it will be so much more. The ideas themselves will be better, undeniably. So it was a kind of no-brainer, really. Same with Erica. Erica's someone that Jack and I both played with for a long time, and it was, immediately I was just, Erica, can you please come and write things? Just because of that creative mind. When you just meet people and you think, this person has a really cool way of looking at things, and I want them to be involved because I know it will make the Almanac better. So it was just a case of like, as soon as I knew that I wanted to make it what it is, I recognized the amount of work that it took as well, and that again, having a team is really important. And having people that you can trust is really important as well. I trust Jack implicitly. I trust Erica so much. I value their opinion on things. That's also really important. I think when you're putting a team together, you don't want everyone just kind of agreeing with each other. You want people that say, actually, I think that could be better, or I think it needs to be done like that. That's really useful and really important. And just kind of having a similar vision, a similar passion as well. And those sorts of things don't come along very often. I'm sort of old enough to recognize that's something that can be few and far between. So when you find those people that you think are really wonderful, and you get on really well with them, and you enjoy creating things together, like, just have a go at something, right? And this is me kind of talking to your listeners, I guess, a little bit. If any of your listeners out there are thinking, should I do that, like, do it. But if you can drag along a few other people along on the ride, as long as you're all respectful of one another's space and time, and and you're all on this sort of roughly the same page, like, it will be better because you have a team of people with you. Undeniably, the ideas will be better, the work will be better, your output will be better. And also, you're just not alone. It can be quite lonely if you're just a sole creator. It can be quite sort of lonely knowing whether it's, especially in the world, this sort of online world that we live in, where, you can feel a little bit invisible sometimes. And as a creator, it's one of the worst things that can happen to a creative person is to feel that, you're not getting the love, I guess, to put it bluntly. It's nice to get, a little bit of love back. And when you have a team of people to show your ideas to, and you're all getting each other excited and you're all passionate about it, you're exciting each other with the ideas, then you can just say, hey, like, if we're excited about this, the other people will be. So yeah.
I'm so grateful for what we have built as even as a community, when it comes to the Almanac, specifically meeting people like Maxi, our composer, who is incredible, and having our work inspire her whilst her work inspires us, and that's incredible. Being able to sit there and listen to music that she's composed and just going from there, it's been such a wonderful experience.
Yeah, Maxi Gerthling, she's on Spotify. You can find her on Instagram and Twitter and stuff as well. But her music it's essentially kind of orchestral, instrumental music, and it is phenomenal.
Just phenomenal.
Yeah. And of course, having incredible artists artists whose work I just make my jaw drop. I can just about manage a stick man when it comes to drawing. So it is literally like some kind of witchcraft to me. And I say that because I tease my partner and my children. They're all amazing artists, my family. I can just about draw. It's like witchcraft to me. So having those artists on the team whose work I just find astounding, and for them to get excited about locations and it's quite wonderful. As Jack said, having that sort of team of people to feedback on, it's really lovely, and we're incredibly lucky to be in the position that we're in and to be able to sort of make this content for people.
It's incredible just seeing and hearing about your community here and just what people put in your team. It's really fulfilling as a creator. I understand that.
Yeah, it is truly.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it, so some recognition is always appreciated.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about the Almanac team all day, to be honest. They're all incredible. I won't sort of name drop them all because it would be ridiculous. But for those of you that, want to kind of, because they're all I think they're all always looking for work. A lot of them have commission spaces open, and with a lot of artists, that's their world now, right? Is looking for commissions, and a lot of them do commissions for kind of character portraits. Some of them have worked on other Kickstarter projects for books, tabletop role playing game books, for stuff like for 5e and whatnot. And their work's incredible, but you've done your job, and you still need to pay the next set of bills. So any of you, any of your listeners that join the Discord, you'll see them on the Discord. They're all sort of under everyone sort of has their kind of tags and labels, and you'll see them labeled as Almanac artists. And just clicking on their names in the Discord, you'll be led to their art stations, to their Twitters and things like that, where you can see their portfolios. Really astounding stuff.
We're actually in the process as well of creating a space within the website to showcase some of their incredible art, just so that who's on the team, and really we can just show off what they can do, because even if it's not necessarily directly for the Almanac, we support them in everything and every endeavour they do, because it's they're friends at the end of the day at this point.
Yeah, just sort of pointing people towards their portfolios and things, which is something that we sort of obviously we asked, would any of you be interested in doing this? We want to show people that your work's incredible, and we want to sort of support you and encourage and sort of be here for you as much as we can in that respect. Even if it's not work directly for the Almanac, we really want you to be successful because we love your work. So as Jack says, that's coming soon. We're sort of starting to work on that, so that when people come to the website, I think it'll be labeled something like Friends of the Almanac, something like that. So when you're on the website, you can see welcome, locations, subscribe. It'll be one of those aspects where you can discover incredible artists, really, and like I said, commission them as well. Like if you're looking for like D&D art, if you're working on thinking of working on a Kickstarter yourself or a book, or you just want a really cool gift for your GM for Christmas, hint hint. To all you players out there with amazing GMs, like please, like it would be amazing. I love our artists. They're all so special, so unique, and so incredibly talented, and I'm not jealous at all.
Here's the thing, the website is free right now.
Yes.
So how can listeners and how can people who use the Almanac support you? I did start a coffee or Ko-fi. I've heard it pronounced two different ways, but I don't tend to push it very hard because I understand that we're living in pretty dire times, financially. A lot of people are struggling, and to be able to provide free content for people in a period in my life when I can do that, that might change. In a year's time, I might suddenly go, I can no longer afford to keep doing this, or I have to sell my laptop or whatever. I don't know. Life is very changeable and unpredictable.
So at the moment, the best way that people can support the Almanac is to just keep coming to the website and to tell all of your friends and to tell your local game shop to use it, and encourage your GM to use it, and just kind of tell everyone about this resource really. If you visit or if you become a member of our Discord community, and some of your listeners are probably already twigged already. I'm sure they're all very intelligent people. It's probably one of the worst kept secrets, really. Although we haven't officially said anything, is we would like to publish it as a book at some point in the future. So that will become when we'll sort of get the begging bowls out, essentially. But that's really because. That's not, again, because I'm looking to make a career of this, or because I think I'm not trying to, and that's not to disrespect anyone that is, because I think that's a hell of a hustle, and I tip my hat to anyone that's doing that. It's incredibly hard work. I see on Twitter every day how hard people are working to make a go of that, and I respect them immensely. I really do, and we all do. I can speak for everyone on the Almanac team. We all just, take our hats off to people doing that. It's wonderful. But for me personally, to have, to be able to give to all of our artists that work, and then to say, look on your bookshelf, look what you did. And for all of us to be able to do that, and to leave something behind, and for people out there as well that I love books, as I mentioned already. I would love nothing more than to have a beautiful hardback book, with this full sort of run of A to Z locations, full of beautiful artwork, location art, NPC art, incredible sort of pen sketches in the margins, little scribbles and scrawls, stuff hidden in there that you can just keep. You can sit down of an evening, by the fireside, sort of metaphysical or otherwise, and just pour through this book and always find new things and find new surprises, and it'd be this beautiful piece of work to have on your bookshelf. That's that is a goal unto itself. So keep an eye out for that, I guess, is another thing. On our Twitter feed, I usually sort of reposting other people's artwork and wonderful stuff that they do, but we will be announcing stuff in the new year, probably, in terms of a timeline of when we would like to do so. But of course that will be crowdfunding, so it will be a case of if our readers, new and old, are interested in that sort of thing, it's in the hands of everybody, really. Which is a wonderful aspect of it, isn't it? Is that nowadays we can publish our books in this manner. So if the audience is there, we'll do it. But we haven't officially announced anything at all. So everyone should keep it a secret. we trust you all. Shh, quiet. But in the meantime, please use the website. Yeah, absolutely. And come and say hello on Twitter or Instagram. We do have a Facebook as well. And I guess we'll be using other things like Mastodon. Is that the other one? A lot of people are encouraging us
the other one
to
people
move
are
over.
to,
Yeah, we'd like to be sort of everywhere and anywhere, really, where people can get access to our content and plug into the website. Yeah.
So we have been going for over 50 minutes now, so
wow.
I think it's time we start getting ready to wrap up here. But I got two more questions for both of you that I ask at the end of every episode. The first one, it's the trickier one, but what advice can you both give to people who are looking to start their own independent projects, but they don't really know where to begin?
I'll go first if that's okay with you, Albyon.
Absolutely, yeah, please do.
Get the support of some people around you. Tell people. Set yourself goals that you have to meet. That I find, especially juggling this alongside my full-time job, my real-life job, it's telling Albyon that I'm going to get something done by the end of the week. It's telling him that I'm going to sort something out so that I have to do it. I'm almost held to it. But also in that, know that if I needed help, I have it there. I've got the people around me that will support me. I think that's the main thing. It's just making sure that you've got that support around you.
Yeah, having that deadline's really useful, isn't it? Sort of knowing that every month there's a location coming. Yeah. I think my advice would be find the thing that really excites you. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's already been done 50 times. If you're really excited about it, that excitement will come through your work. And then just work really hard at it. These locations go through so many edits. Some might argue that they could do with a few more, but that's on me entirely. As a kind of wordsmith, right? Like, work really hard at the thing that you're really passionate about would be my advice.
I think that makes sense. That's a great bit of advice there. Nothing else to add there? Anything else? Or
No, I don't think so.
good, perfect.
Other than just do it as well.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, jump in. Yes.
There's so many times that I've sat there and I've said, oh, I'd love to make something. I'd love to make a resource. I'd love to put these ideas that we're having together, and kind of just sat there in the silence of people being like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. And it wasn't until I kind of met Albyon that was like, then let's do it. Let's make this thing. Let's make something that is special.
Yeah, and the worst that happens is you just leave cool shit behind, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's awesome. You mentioned the Aberdeen bestiary. That's hundreds of years old. Like, and it's still being enjoyed, right? So if someone's enjoying the Almanac in 300 years' time, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Where can people find out more about both of you and Albyon Absey's Geographical Almanac?
If you type Albyon Absey, that's ALBYON ABSEY into your favorite search engine, you should see our Twitter, Instagram, all manner of kind of socials, and obviously AlbyonAbsey.com is where we're at. Jack has his own Twitter, as does Albyon, and Erica also has her own Twitter, which is Ericant Game. Her name is Erica with a K, so put that together with Ericant Game. She does a lot of really beautiful, cute YouTube Let's Plays with like little kind of farming sims and awesome stuff. That's and then obviously on the Discord, if you join our Discord, I don't think you need an invite, right? It's just like an open thing, Jack, isn't it? You can just kind of
it is indeed. It should be within if you find us on Twitter or if you find us on the website, then there are links to join the Discord.
All of our social links are on the website up in the top right hand corner. So you see the Discord there, our Reddit, our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook page. So yeah, you can kind of jump in, and if you join the Discord, you'll see all of our artist team as well on there. You'll see everyone that's kind of involved, and you'll see a wonderful composer whose music I just can't stop talking about at the moment. So hi Maxi, you're amazing. We love you.
As always, audience, those links are going to be down in the description below. Jack, Albyon, thank you so much for joining me this week on the podcast. This was a really cool experience to talk about such an interesting resource, and I absolutely enjoyed learning about it.
Thank you so much for having us. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And audience, thank you so much for listening. Albyon and Jack have already launched the Almanac online, so go to the description down below, check it out for yourselves, and until then, though, we'll talk to you very soon. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to Albyon and Jack for joining me on the podcast this week. Albyon Absey's Geographical Almanac is an absolutely stellar tool and resource for you to use, and it's totally free. I may be taking some of this for my own table in the future, actually, so please go check out the site, join their Discord, give them some love, because they really aren't asking for anything. And thank you for listening, audience. I know the upload schedule's been shit lately, let's be honest. I'm working on that too, but I really appreciate all you sticking with me through this and seeing where it takes us. With Twitter in the state it is, I have had a bit of a tough time sort of getting myself organized while I familiarize myself with some new socials. Again, that's on me, but it should be cleared up really soon. So if you like what you heard, why not tell me where I can hear more from you via an email or a tweet before the bird dies? That's all from me for this week, though. Until next time, bye!